right, Patron Racing fans, got a beautiful new car here. This is the Michelotto prepared Ferrari 458 GT. Completely new race car, state of the art for the GT class. You know, Ferrari spent a lot of time and money creating that new 458 street car. It's had amazing reviews worldwide, and now we've got the racing version of it. And not only does it look quite a bit more exciting than what we had last season, we've got obviously a lot of chrome, a lot more detail in the graphics package on the car, but the sleek, sexy lines of this thing is different from anything else you're going to see in the American Le Mans Series this year. The car is amazing. So some of the differences are, you know, obviously it's a whole new car, so it's got a redesigned package for bodywork. We've got a larger splitter, as you can see down here in the front of the car, which is going to help us produce a little bit more downforce. Obviously the intake and the radiator setup is quite a bit different in how it exhausts out this front hood. That's all going to help the engine cooling and performance. God forbid we have any contact with another car from the front. This car is a little bit safer for us in that it'll take a little bit more of a beating without damaging the radiators and such, but it's still a very fragile front end for us. And then we've got a completely redesigned suspension. The brakes are just slightly bigger. It's the same spec for the wheel and the tire, so nothing's changed there. Same traction, the same platform we've got that's touching the ground. Nothing's really different there. But then inside in the cockpit, I'll squeeze in here while my guys are working on it. It is a completely different engine, most of the specs of which I'm not aware of. They just tell me to step on the pedals and turn the steering wheel, but it's got a much different sound as well. But it's direct fuel injection in this motor. Quite a bit nicer. Should be a lot more programmable for you know, traction control and saving fuel and doing all this stuff. So in the cockpit, you know, pretty similar. What they've redesigned is the roll cage in the car, and they've opened up the window for the drivers to get in and out a little bit better without decreasing the safety of the roll cage at all. So we've got a little more space for us to do our driver changes and get our big clunky helmets in and out of this car. We've got a lot more buttons on the steering wheel this time. Put a lot more of the controls right at our fingertips instead of us having to reach over to the center console to make adjustments. We've got a much nicer setup with the seat belts. And not all the other goodies that we had in the race cars from last year yet, because we've only had these things a couple of weeks, but we're going to turn them into spaceships. They'll look like UFOs on the inside in no time. So I'm going to climb in here and we'll go over some more details. All right, so in the cockpit of our new 458 Ferrari, you know, things are a little bit different as far as the layout goes. I mean, the basic principle behind the car and the build of the car is very much the same, but ergonomically things are a little bit different, as is reminiscent of the street version of this car. So we've got this nice center console now that's contoured and comes closer to us so that everything is within arm's reach. So all of our switches and everything now are on this console, whereas they were on a flat board that was in the front over here in the 430 car. And we had to reach a little bit further, and it was just kind of hard to maneuver with. So our radios here, all of our controls for starting the car, ignition, traction control, you know, fuel maps, brake balance, the air conditioning, the helmet blower, windshield wipers, brightness for the dashboard. I mean, everything is right at our fingertips, and there's obviously a lot more buttons on the steering wheel. But our shift lever's in the same spot, you know, ergonomically the seat, the relationship between our hands and feet and our butts basically are all in the same spot, and we've got a nice open greenhouse. So we have a little bit more space in here. We're going to be able to get out of the cockpit better. Last year on the 430, there was a rail that came down this way, and the seat had to be further forward in the cockpit in order for us to reach the pedal and the steering wheel. So it made it really difficult for us to maneuver, because as we were driving around, our heads were actually touching these bars. We've got a much nicer opportunity now to get in and out of the car. All right, so that's just a brief overview of some of the new details with this 458 Ferrari. As the season goes along, we'll show you bits and pieces more, but you know, for the time being, it's all top secret. You don't know any of this, don't tell anybody.